Hello everyone. I'll wait a few minutes for some people to pop on. I am riding solo, painting solo tonight. So hopefully you guys will keep me company. It might be 2 minutes early or so. Bear 30 here. Yay! Okay, so we have had a crazy busy week at the shop this week, so I'll just kind of bring you guys up to date on what all we have going on while we wait for our makers to pop on here. So tomorrow is our Art in the Alley event. If you haven't seen our mural going up on the back of the building, that will be finished up tomorrow. Super excited to have that finished and have that greet me every day that I come to work. So we are going to watch Brady Scott finish the mural tomorrow starting at 6. And we've got some vendors coming out just to keep you guys occupied while you're watching. So we have Tara and her husband coming out with her cotton candy. She has a cotton candy stand, which is adorable, so there'll be some cotton candy for the kids. And then we also have Salt City Chiller, which is a new snow cone RV that goes around town, so they're gonna come out. So I'm sure it'll be hot, so there'll be some snow cones too. I have some art supplies for the kiddos to keep them busy while we're watching Brady. So I have a giant coloring page, lots of sidewalk chalk and bubbles. And Tara and Chris are going to bring out and demo their new cornhole boards, which we are now doing as kits. So I think they're going to have some contests to win some free cotton candy with their cornhole boards, which will be fun. And if you haven't seen the cornhole, you can probably see behind me. Yeah, I'm overwhelmed with cornhole pickups right now. They're taking over the studio. So if you ordered a cornhole set and you're waiting, it will likely be Friday when I can drop those off and be around for pickups, possibly tomorrow afternoon. So check your emails. I've got to get ready for this event tomorrow, and then I'll be back live with Tara on Friday night to do our home sign, and that'll be available for kits in the future if you are interested in making that oldie but goodie home sign. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it before. Let's see, probably have. It is right in front of me. There it is. So we're gonna make that home sign that has the baseball on it Friday night. So if you want to come check out the live Friday night, that's what we're gonna do. So let me show you my little porch sign that I made. I made one for myself for my porch, and then I'm gonna make one tonight for the shop. So let me turn the camera back around. And oh my gosh, I just was so excited to put flowers in it today, but I just went with a simple stain on mine to match my shutters. Simple black, and then my flowers are gonna be the star of the show. So something to note about your kits, I know a lot of people that are going to be coming on to make these, there are holes in the bottom for drainage, and I just wanted to mention that even though there's holes in the bottom, I don't recommend actually planting dirt in there. I think you'd be better off to put a pot down in it and let it, drain out the bottom if you watered the pot. Putting the soil directly in, I don't think it's going to have a very good effect. So we are still taking orders. If you want to make this project, you can still go online and order it. And then we have one spot left in our class coming up on July 11th to make this in the shop because it's so big we can only fit 8 people max on that one. So there is one spot left if you want to grab it. Okay, so if you are making this with me tonight, when I delivered, we talked about having our planter boxes pre-stained or pre-painted just to save time, so you guys didn't have to watch me paint this whole thing. So if you're watching this like 6 weeks from now and you're making this project, you might want to pause it and paint your box. You're going to want to paint the entire box and let it dry really well, and then come back to this video to finish it up. So everybody that's making it tonight should already have their boxes pre-done. So what I'm going to do is lift up the camera like I normally do and tilt it down so you can see what I'm working on. So hang tight. Okay, this one's so big that I might have to slide it as we're working on different sections. But let me tell you a little bit about what I decided to do with this one. I really wanted to try out another kind of stain that we could offer in the kits. And so I tried out this blue stain by Minwax that they're carrying in Lowe's right now. And it is a water-based stain, but it is a 1 coat dry in 1 hour. And I know navy is a popular color, so I wanted to try it out to see. My review is so-so on this one. I found it pretty hard to blend and kind of splotchy. It was super thick to go on, and you can't really water it down, or it says you shouldn't water it down. So it took me quite a bit of time to be happy with the blending, but I did let it dry overnight, and I strongly suggest that if you get a 1 hour stain from me, I'll let you know that's what you have. That you stain whatever your project is and let it dry overnight before you do stencils. I just think it's going to be a better turnout for everyone, a better result, and you won't have a problem with your stencils not sticking. Okay, so I decided that I would make one of these for outside the shop. So I put my little artist palette here, and then at the end I'm going to do the logo there. So in your kit, everybody, and if you are making this with me tonight, I would love to know. I sent 5 cups of paint in the base color. If that was good and that was enough paint, I would love to know, because I took a guess. If it wasn't enough, I'd like to hear that too, so I know for future kits how much to send. So if you're making it and you want to comment for me, that would be awesome. I'd love to see if my guess was correct. Okay, so what we're going to do is start out with applying our stencil to the wood. And everybody should have stencils in several pieces. This is about as long as you can cut on the Cricut, so that's kind of how your pieces got determined, the length. If you are not comfortable putting this size stencil on the wood, you can definitely cut these apart before we put them on. So feel free to take a scissor and slice between, and you can put them on individually. The reason I did it this way is because if you're like me, I'm very anal about having stuff lined up, so at least 50% of the work is done for you if you leave it in one piece. And it'll be easier to put on. So what I'm going to do is take my trusty paint tray that we have here. If you have a credit card in your wallet, a gift card, something like that, use the edge of it, works the same way. But I'm just going to give these a good rub, and I would suggest you do the same. I did not do a good stick on these before I stuck them in your bags, and they have probably bubbled up a little bit. because the humidity, they like to curl. So let's give it a good little rub and stick. If you do have a section that has like a little air bubble in it, don't worry about that. It's not gonna make a big deal. Just rub right over the top of it. It's not gonna affect your stencil. And then let me do this one. Okay. So whenever I'm peeling the back off of a stencil, I lay it down flat. Okay, and then I'm just gonna start with one corner and I'm gonna separate the layers. So you wanna peel the white backing off, but you want, and I'm against blue so it's hard to see, you want the blue vinyl to stay on the contact paper, okay? So I'm gonna lay it down flat, I'm gonna hold it in the corner with one finger, and then I'm gonna slowly back off my backing so that I can make sure no small pieces get left behind. You don't want anything to stay stuck to the white. Everything needs to stay down on the contact paper, okay? And I'm just gonna do this whole thing, this whole sticker. See how that's coming up right there? I'm just gonna push that back down with my finger, okay? And keep on going. Should have brought a trash can over here. Trash pile. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that laying like that, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with this piece. So whether you're doing 2 big pieces or you cut them apart and you're doing 5 pieces, go ahead and take the backs off and leave them sticky side up for now. I'm just gently rolling this back, keeping it flat. Getting it stuck to the other one. Okay. Don't you love sticky stuff? Ooh, it's not my favorite. Okay. So the way I cut your stencils is so that it's gonna leave you wanna have a bit of space here, okay? Because you're gonna plant or put a pot in and you're gonna have flowers, they're gonna grow up. You don't want them necessarily blocking your letters. So go to the top with your stencil, you know, leaving, I don't know, leave like an inch or 2 at the top, and then leave a bunch of space here at the bottom for your flowers to grow up, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna lightly flip over my stencil and just place it on the wood without pushing it down, okay? I'm just gonna lightly lay it, okay? This means I'll still be able to move it around, okay? Not committed to where it is yet. Okay, so now I'm gonna stand towards the end of my box and look at it long ways and make sure that it's straight, okay? And the other thing you need to worry about is where your pieces come together, you wanna make sure you don't have a weird, awkward gap. You wanna make sure you bring them close enough to where it looks like one solid stencil. So I think I'm pretty good with this part of it. I'm just gonna scoot this one up. If you get to this part where you're scooting them together and your stencils have a lot of blue, you can trim this so that they fit closer together. Your blue is your border for painting, but you can still trim it. So just leave yourself enough border so when you're painting you don't go onto the actual wood, but you need to be able to get close enough to where it looks like one word and you don't have that weird awkward space. It's okay if they overlap a little bit on the blue part. You just want to make sure that you do one at a time because we're going to peel this top cover sheet off. So I'm going to give mine a little trim. They can get closer together. So since this is a vertical piece, I'm not going to do it here because you won't be able to see it well, but you can stand this bad boy up and look at it from a distance and make sure that it looks lined up, because looking at it on a table flat is completely different than standing it straight up and looking at it this way, okay? So take a minute to do that. How many times am I going to move this, do you think? All right, I'm going for it. So next thing I'm going to do is just from the center out, I'm just going to, with my fingers, press down the vinyl. You don't want any like big creases or huge bubbles or anything, so work from the center out. Okay, so now you're going to go back to your handy dandy paint tray credit card deal. And we're going to start rubbing the stencil and having it stick to the wood. Now, probably doing a navy board for this was not a good choice because you can't tell, but when you start to rub this, it's going to change shade just a little bit. So mine's going from a light blue to a dark blue. So what you want is the change of shade over the whole thing. So this is an important step to make sure that you are rubbing the stencil down. So take a few minutes to be thorough with this part. And obviously your edges are your most important focus, but you want the whole thing stuck. Is the stencil cut out with the letters backwards? Tina, because my camera is facing me, everything that I'm showing you looks backwards. But in real life, it's regular. Does that make sense? My camera on my phone, if I want to be able to see myself and make sure that my camera is working properly, I have to have it facing me, which means everything looks backwards. But at the end, I'll reveal it and switch the camera around and you can see that it's normal. All right, there's that one. Now, if you take this class in the shop, I'm going to make you weed your own vinyl and do your own cover sheet. You guys that did kits, you get spoiled because I do all that work for you. Okay, I'm going to slide this board down and I'm going to quickly do the box piece too and talk to you about that stencil. We might as well get all our stencils on at once and then paint. Okay, so a couple different versions went out in the kits. Obviously this was not one of them. If you got the initial, the family name initial, you're gonna start with the stencil that has the big initial letter and the vine underneath. We're gonna complete the entire process and pull the vinyl off And then you're gonna go back with the name part and repeat the steps and repeat the process to put your name across the middle of that initial. But for me, I'm just doing the logo, so I'm gonna go about it the same way. Separate these layers from the blue and the white. I'm gonna lay it flat and just gently pull it back. I've got little lettering on this one, so I wanna make sure that all the little inside pieces stay down. That little S is gonna wanna come up, so I'm gonna push it down with my finger. N. All right. Now I'm going to flip it over and lightly lay it down. And I'll look at it from the side here. I want the end to be, oh, this logo of mine. Okay, so I'm going to start from the center out and just rub it down, and then I'm going to go back with the tray, give it that hard edge rub. Okay, so now that my stencil is stuck to my wood, I'm going to take some time to peel off this layer of contact paper that's on the top. So same process as when you're peeling the backing off. You just want to gently roll it. So don't pull up on it this way to pull it off, because then you're going to be pulling your stencil off of the wood. So you just want to gently roll back your contact paper. And again, you're just making sure that your stencil is sticking down and that none of your little blue pieces are coming up. Stencil needs to be stuck to the wood at this point. Now from here on out, it's going to be hard to see the blue on the blue. I apologize for that. And then as I paint it, it's going to look even more like a hot mess until the very end. Then we'll move it back down. And I'm going to peel this part off the contact paper. Let's get it started on the corner. It off. So I chose to do this little artist palette today, and the way that this vinyl design is cut, what I'm going to be painting in is the actual palette, and then when I peel out my stencil, it's going to leave blue, and that will be my outline. And I think what I'm going to do is go back and just hand paint in the paint colors and the brush, just to make it look more custom and more defined. But your stencils are good to go, whatever you chose. If it was a paw print or a flower, you are more than welcome to always go back and get some paint and hand paint stuff and make it beautiful, or you can just go with a simple stencil look and call it good. I think it would be pretty. The people that did the sunflower, if you wanted to go back and actually paint the sunflower like yellow and different shades and brown in the center and all that, make it detailed, that would be cool. At least you have the shape from the stencil to work with. Okay, so my stencil is on and all the contact paper is pulled off, so I am prepared. But I have one thing that I do when I work with wood. If you've been to a class, you know my little secret trick is Mod Podge. I sanded everybody's wood plank before I delivered, but that doesn't mean that there isn't some kind of groove or grain where the paint can get up underneath your stencil. So this is kind of a trick that you can do a thin layer of this, and that kind of fills in the gaps and give you more of that crisp edge. So you just want to make sure with your hand that your stencil is down and there's no gaps. And then I'm going to quickly take a brush and put on a thin coat of Mod Podge. When I do this, I do it almost thin enough to where it's translucent. If you're seeing big white streaks, then it's too thick. You really want to go thin with the Mod Podge and do translucent, okay? And you just want to do the edges where it meets the stencil. Here I've got ones in the middle, so I'm going to do across the middle here. It doesn't take much of the Mod Podge, so if you notice you don't have a whole lot in your kit, then that is because you don't need a lot. So I've got too much, so I'm going to move this over here. Spread it out. And I'm going both directions with it because I want to make sure that I'm getting all the edges both directions, okay? So once you go one way, kind of work at the other. It dries super fast, so you need to work quickly. And I meant to get a cup of water so that I could soak this brush, and I did not. As soon as you get done with this, you're going to want to soak this brush in water because it will harden super fast. I have a few kind of, I'm going to call them pitty areas on my wood, that this is just going to fill in those little gaps. If you don't have Mod Podge, you can still be successful without it. You just really need to make sure that your stencil is down well over those bumpy areas and that you have a little bit of the background paint for touch-ups with a small brush. This is not like a must-have do or die. It's just a little extra step I like to do. Almost done. So I was trying to come up with what color that I wanted to do this, and Everly and I made a sign today with hot pink, and I was like, ooh, maybe I should do hot pink on the navy. That would be pretty. But then I was thinking that might not go well with all the flower colors I choose, or maybe it will, I don't know. So I was gonna ask your opinion, if I should do something like that or go with like a basic grayish white on the sign. If anybody wants to chime in with their opinion, you can help me design this sign. That would be a fun class, like do a project where everybody watching gets to choose the direction that it takes and what it looks like. That would be fun. Oh, I gotta do my bottom part. Forgot about that. Make sure you get your box too here at the bottom. Heather, you think I should do it in pink and maybe do the gray at the bottom of the logo? Since my colors really aren't pink. Heather, are you making your project tonight, or are you still waiting on Pat to make it for you? Heather is my East Coaster. I mailed her the stencils and her husband is making her the box because he's such a nice one. Such a good husband. You're not making it? Okay. Well, make sure you tune back in on the night that you do in case you have questions. You'll be able to rewind and watch it again. Okay, I know this is super boring, this part, but essential. All right, Heather, I'm gonna do what you want. I'm gonna go pink. Pink is the color of the day. You got the wood well cut and stain it. Well, yeah, that's the big part. All right. I gotta get a little bit of water for my brush or this one is a goner, so you guys give me the grace of like 30 seconds to grab some water here. Hang tight. See, this is normally where if I have Tara here with me, she can fill in the gap when I have to walk away from what everybody's seeing. Okay, so while I just painted the bottom, the top is already dry, so that's nice. I can start painting. So let me slide it down and we'll get to work here. Let me get some pink. All right, I'm going with bright magenta tonight. Gray on the bottom. Yeah, I agree. Okay, we're gonna do pink. Everly will be so excited. She was saying pink too today, Heather, but I wasn't ready to commit. So, okay, Heather's asking again why we're doing the Mod Podge. So if you have a natural product like wood, and like barnwood, even this plank that you buy, blows, they have a lot of imperfections. So you'll have knots and you'll have ridges and things. So the Mod Podge acts like a filler. It's your bleed undercoat and it's clear. So if the paint does bleed under, with that being your first coat, it's gonna bleed under clear. So when you pull your vinyl off, you won't have a bunch of mess to clean up that's bled underneath. So it's gonna seal your sticker, fill in those gaps, but you want to make sure that you do a thin coat. You don't want to do super thick because then it's going to get kind of gluey and harder for your paint to dry and adhere to the wood, if that makes sense at all. So I'm using kind of a wider, maybe like a 1.5 inch brush here to make this a little faster for you guys. But since I'm going over navy, I'm gonna have to do a couple of coats. So just like the Mod Podge, I'm putting my paint on thin because we're gonna dry between layers. So you don't want thick paint. Thick paint is not our friend, okay? So commit to the multiple layers and just do thin. It ends up much better in the end. dries faster in between. And then your second coat will go on much better if your first coat is dry. It's a little warm in here, so this may dry fairly fast. Oh, so yeah, I didn't want to do pink right there though. So if you do what I do and you just messed up, where you have paint where you don't want it, I have baby wipes handy all the time when I'm working. So a baby wipe's gonna take this right off, like it never happened. So I think for this one, I'm gonna do white here, maybe a little bit of brown in it to make it look like a palette. So it'll be a little different than the rest of the word. And that way when I come back and do my little paint colors, it'll pop. So don't paint that pink. And I'm trying to make sure that I get the paint up to all the edges on the stencil. I think sometimes once you get the coat of paint on, you kind of lose the edges of your letters, and then you come up with a little spot that you've not gotten the paint all the way to the end of the stencil. And so when you pull it off, you have this weird funky spot. So make sure your paint goes over the entire stencil. Obviously the blue is there for you to paint all over, so just don't go off your board. If you go off the stencil onto the board, grab a wet paper towel or baby wipe and you can clean it off. If you catch it quickly, it won't be a problem. All right, I'm gonna start another bowl with gray so that I can pop between the two of these quickly. I think with this one too, I'm gonna distress it when I'm done with sandpaper. So if you have a mouse sander or you have some sandpaper around, you can at the end kind of distress and make your board look old, especially around the edges. So when I'm doing the stencil, see how I'm doing like big broad strokes? I'm not dabbing the paint on. You don't want to dab. It's not like stenciling where you have a dauber and you're dabbling. You can use broad strokes on this to get your paint thinned out, okay? If you're dabbing your paint on, it's going on too thick. You gotta spread it out. And it makes your paint go way further. I might even put a little metallic on this down here. Wouldn't that be cool? I'll do a base coat of the gray and then maybe add at the very end one layer of metallic gray. So it will look like almost aluminum. That is genius. Okay, so this first coat looks kind of gross because it's got all the streaks. It's not covering my navy, but that's okay. That is the way it's supposed to look for this first coat. So this is about dry, actually, for where I started at the top. Yeah, so the first couple letters are already dry, so this should be dry by the time I get to it. So let me go back to my pink and put on my next coat. And because I'm doing thin layers, it's drying fast for me. And now this layer is gonna cover much better. So I might get away with 3 coats. If you're doing, so I think a lot of people are doing white boards and black letters. If you're doing a white board and a black letter, you probably will be fine with just 2 coats of black, because it covers so well, but definitely 2 coats. That way, if you've missed a spot, you're covered. So if anybody is looking for something to do tomorrow night, we're having our Art in the Alley celebration, which will just be an open house here in the shop. If you would like to come and check out the workshop, see some of the projects we've been offering in person, you know, ask any questions that you might have about what we do here, and find out about, you know, classes and that kind of stuff. And we also have Brady Scott here finishing up our mural on the building. So we're gonna watch some live art, and then we're gonna let the kids make some art too. I've got lots of sidewalk chalk. See if we can get them to make us their own little mural. I know my two will get involved with that. And I have some bubbles, and we will have snow cones and cotton candy. But since we're right next to Carl's Bar, you can grab takeout from Carl's, bring a lawn chair, hang out with me in the alley, and watch the mural get finished. It'll be fun. I think my littles will really enjoy watching. He does everything with spray paint, which is super cool to watch come to life. So he still has the owl to finish. So we'll watch that. I lost my feed. There we go. I'll be able to see your comments. But I don't want to hear myself, so let me turn this down. Okay. So Tina, if you're interested in coming, it's starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, and we're putting it till 9. I don't know if it'll take him that long to finish it, but we'll just, you know, however long. All right, one more coat on the gray. See if you guys can throw stuff off the table. It's hard to work on these big projects and keep them in view for you guys. Okay, so that's 2 coats of gray, and it's kind of this light steely gray, so I think that might be all I need on this bottom section, and then I can come back with a metallic here in a sec. I can find it. Depends on how thorough you are with your coats, too. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do while I'm waiting on those letters to dry is go ahead and put the white in for my palette here. It's going to take a couple coats of white to get over the navy, so I think I'm going to add a little bit of brown. I don't want it to be brown, but I want it to have kind of a woodish, color to it. Okay, so that's what, taupe, maybe tan? This way I can come back with a darker brown for the paintbrush handle, and it won't blend into the palette part. And again, I'm going real thin. It's super streaky, but that's okay. And the next couple coats will solve that part. Okay, so that one. Still got some damp spots, so I'm gonna use my hair dryer. So if you have a hair dryer at home that has a cool setting on it, from here on out that we have our sticker on the wood, you can use air on it, but only cool air, not hot. If you use hot, you're gonna melt your stencil, and we don't wanna do that. If I had been more prepared, I would have had this plugged in already, so sorry. So mine has a cool button at the top. I'm just going to hold that down. Hey, Miss Tara. So Miss Tara joined. She's watching. I decided not to ask her to help me tonight because I'm asking her to be here tomorrow and Friday. So for someone that is not necessarily on the payroll, I thought that would be kind of mean to ask for 3 nights in a row. So Tara and Chris are going to bring out some cornhole boards that they've been making that we're selling as kits so that we can play some cornhole with them tomorrow and maybe win some cotton candy. Okay, so I dried, and I'm going to go last coat of the pink. So I'm going to say the biggest issue that I see in class with the stencils is dry time. So we're kind of accelerating everything about this process. If you're tuning into this and you are doing it from home on your own time, I would say let it dry on its own in between coats. Just pause it and come back to it. I feel like projects always come out better when you let them dry on their own versus forcing the process with the hair dryer. That's what I normally do in the shop when I'm just here working by myself, is I have 2 or 3 projects going at a time, so while one is drying, I'm popping over to the next one. But unfortunately in class, when our classes take about 3 hours with the hair dryer, you kind of have to do it. So the biggest problem I see is that projects are not dry enough and we're trying to peel off the vinyl and the paint's kind of stretchy. If your paint's stretchy and it's starting to peel with the sticker as you're pulling it off, your project is not dry enough. So you have to kind of rewind, get the dryer back out, and give it some more time. Or just walk away and come back later. Go have a drink, like me, have a beer, have a wine, and come back later. So that is 3 coats of pink, magenta. So as things dry, you're going to kind of see how the paint soaks into the wood and maybe some spots that you might have missed. So you might want to just take a survey up and down and go back and hit some spots again if you need to. And I'm going to see if I can find some, I'm going to do another coat on this, and then I'm going to see if I can find my metallic paint. And silver. Well, that's drying. I might get away with that being the last coat there too. So if you've ever worked with metallic paint, it's super watery and hard to get like the full color. Like you have to do multiple coats. So if you have a base coat first in like the gray like we did, then come back with this as the top coat, you'll save yourself a ton of paint because it seems like metallics are a little more expensive too. So don't waste it on multiple layers if you can do a base coat. See how watery that is? I'm just gonna mix it up a little bit. It wouldn't hurt to shake it. It's probably been sitting up there for a while. Yeah, it's just watery. It's okay. Let's see if this will add just a little bit of, I don't know if this will come out on the camera. It's gonna add a little bit of a shimmer to it. Nothing crazy. But in the sunshine, I bet it looks cool. I'm just going to make sure this is going on even since it's so watery. It's hard to tell, even in person. This may be a wasted effort. We'll see what happens. It's not fun unless you experiment, right? Getting to the end here. Trying not to make puddles with this being so watery. But I think I've got it covered now. That definitely is going to need it blow dry. I'm just going to test out one of my corners here and see how I'm drying. See, I got a little bit of paint off my stencil, so I'm going to have to fix that little section. So see how I'm getting that nice clean peel? That means it's dry. If it's kind of giving you a jagged edge as you're peeling, that means it's not dry enough. So let's see. So it's just on the verge of not being dry enough. Let's try a little more air. Okay, as you're peeling your vinyl, you can definitely cut away so that you're not having a huge piece. That usually helps when you're taking it off. So that you're kind of peeling around versus across the whole thing. This is where having a safety pin or a sewing needle comes in super handy, because you're going to have to pick out little pieces. And so you can get them started with the pin and then pull with your fingers. So if you have a spot that is trying to be stretchy, kind of pull away from the paint versus towards it where it's going to tear into the paint. You want to pull away from the image. Get a little stick there. So when you're using your pen, you want to make sure that you go kind of at it flat to pick underneath, because you don't want to gouge your wood. I mean, it's always fixable, the little touch-up paint, but you're just making more work for yourself, so. Kind of rushing this a little bit. I could really use some more dry towel, but I'm making it work here. So I had a little spot right there where the paint was not quite dry and it tore into it just a little bit. So if you have a tiny touch-up brush, you'll be able to fix any little areas like that. Yeah. This is also a really good example of why, if you're staining, you let it sit for 24 hours, 48 hours if you can, before you try to do the stencil. And I'm probably blocking your view as I'm trying to pull this off. I apologize for that. Trying to see, once you paint it, it's hard to see where your letters are, so I'm trying to see where my letter is before I go crazy pulling. And this is really a good test for me to see how this 1 hour stain reacts to projects and whether or not it's worth offering. Good old acrylic paint is always the easiest. I'm afraid it's so humid in here. Not helping me to dry this either. Cut that so it can peel more easily around the shape. And I'm trying to see. Oh, I'm so blind tonight. There we go. This font's tricky. Drink. It's stressful. Hopefully when you guys do it, it will heal wonderfly for you. Gets you crazy. on my L to touch up there. These are all minor, oops, I forgot a spot in my M. There we go. We're almost there. This is probably riveting to watch, isn't it? It's starting to look like letters. So I definitely have areas that I'm going to want to touch up. There's a few spots where it was super gritty looking, bumpy, where I have two little places it bled under. That's not bad. Mod Podge helped out a lot in that scenario. So for this one, I'm going to come back and paint and make that look. I think I'm going to do that. Maybe not tonight, but I think I'm going to do it. Let's see what happens on the end here. Let's see if this is dry enough. This one's going to be easy to peel compared to the other. It makes all the difference in the world if it's dry. I'll just say that. Because this one's coming off way easier than that Welcome did, with really crisp edges. So try not to rush it on your end like I'm having to for this project on the live. I definitely think that everybody should get some spray polyurethane or even brush on polyurethane, whatever finish you guys like, and make sure that you seal your boxes before you let them sit out in the weather if they're going to be getting wet on the front porch and stuff, which they probably will if you got plants in them. You want them to get rain or else you're watering, but definitely want to seal it before you leave it out in the weather. Nothing will happen immediately, but if it's out there long enough, it'll start to have issues. That's looking so good, right? I'm not even stressing about peeling this one. It's dry. And if you're staining your, like Heather, when you stain your board, if you need to do touch-ups, if you have your stain handy, you can take a small little brush and dip it in the stain to make any touch-ups that you need to. You just blend it in as you go. Ta-da! That one did awesome! See, that's how it's supposed to go? It's not supposed to be a fight. Okay guys, what I want to do for you is distress it. And I'm going to grab some sandpaper, but I'm also going to grab my mouse sander and show you both ways. And get some of this paint out of the way here. Not everybody has a mouse sander, although I highly recommend investing in one because they're super fun and easy to use. So this is my little mouse sander. It's a little petite thing, easy to use. So I'm gonna plug this in. But if you don't have a mouse sander, you can just use, I don't know, what is this? 220? I don't know. It doesn't say. It's not that coarse. You don't want to go too coarse. But you can use it to distress your edges if you don't have a mouse sander. It takes a little more time, obviously, but it's allowing me to kind of get down to the natural wood here and add like a natural frame to it. So you want to do that on your edges, and like you want to get the top of the box and the sides. You want to kind of be even about it if you're going to do it. So what I'm going to do is use the mouse sander to make it a little bit more distressed. And if you're listening to this, I would turn the volume down for just a sec, because this probably is going to be louder than the hairdryer was. So I'm gonna come in kind of far, but I'm not gonna do over top of my letters. It's just a personal preference. I'm gonna keep them bright, clean edged, and I'm gonna work my way in a little bit on each side to wear it down, and on the edges at the top and stuff like that. I think that's plenty for this project. My sandpaper's falling off, sorry, hang on. if you come to class, you get to use these fun tools like this and sand your own stuff. So that is always fun. Okay, well that is the majority of this project. So if you're bored to tears, you can definitely pop off of here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of work on this and put some fun colors on it, finish it up, do some touch-ups. Let's see, green would probably be cute. Maybe yellow. This color teal. 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe white. I think red's gonna clash, so I don't want to do red. Maybe I'll do another pink on there. Maybe I'll make it the smallest one. So these circles from this stencil are super perfect, so I'm not gonna go super perfect because paint never comes out super perfect. Just gonna kind of dab it on there. And okay, Tara. Thanks, girl. I appreciate you watching. I can't wait to see your project when you get it done. Please tag me and post a pic. Green. I'm putting this on thick because I want it to cover well and look like paint, so obviously we're not peeling any stickers, so I don't need to worry about it being too thick. And I poured way too much paint out. Let's do white. What you don't know is I'm watching and waiting. I know, you're waiting to come bring me some kits. And you can come anytime. I just need to unlock the door. I am locked in here. Okay, white and what did I say? Yellow is going to be my last color. Okay, so now I need a brown and a brush color. So let's see what this brown looks like straight out of the... Just don't stick your hand in the wet paint, that's always a bad thing. So you gotta remember, you don't have a stencil here, so you actually have to paint, or I have to remind myself, I actually have to paint in the lines and not go crazy here. except for that little part at the top that's like normally, I'm gonna say it's normally gold, so let's do gold. I'm running out of tray room. I'm just gonna be really careful because I'm painting up to wet paint, so kind of going thick with it here. I don't want to smear it. Okay, looks good. I think I might take a little bit of this gold and white and see what I can make for the brush here. For like the nylon part. Yeah, it's a little too close to my palette color. So maybe I stick more with white. I'm gonna stand this bad boy up here in a few minutes and actually see what it looks like. Just adding a little detail on here. Make it maybe look a little less stencily. Okay, now that I've used 101 brushes, I'm just gonna say that is good for now. Maybe we'll come back to that, and the last thing I'm gonna do is just hit just some tiny places that were an issue when I peeled off my vinyl. I'm trying to find a good brush here. Well, I've still got some touch-up paint. This may not even be something you guys can see from your end. so that was my major blemishes. So I think what I'm gonna do is quickly stand this up. Trying to see how it turned out. Can't always tell when you're looking at it from this direction. So how about I get you guys where you might be able to see it. It's probably just you, Tara, left on here, right? Okay, let's put some flowers in there. For the full effect. Woo! Okay. Okay, guys, here it is. Dun dun. Look at that. I'm gonna turn the camera around, hang on, so I can actually, there we go. Welcome to Splinters-N-Rust. There it is. I can't get back far enough for you to even see. How about this? There it is. It's done. I kind of like the pink. I maybe should have gone pink in the bottom. What do you think? Okay, well, hopefully if you are making this one at home, you had lots of success. I would love to see your finished products on your porches so we could share with everybody. And let me know if you had any issues or questions or concerns about this project. It was super fun. I really appreciate you hanging out with me tonight. It's running solo, and Tara, you can come over now. I'll unlock the door for you. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.